Today, we will use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events. According to the latest news from CNN, a winter storm caused by a blizzard swept through the American plains and the upper Midwest from December 25th to 27th, bringing severe blizzards, freezing rain, and strong winds during the busy holiday season. Midweek resulted in extremely dangerous weather. The worst of the storm occurred on Monday and Tuesday, when snow and wind gusts of 50 to 60 miles per hour, with gusts as high as 75 miles per hour, battered Nebraska, South Dakota, Kansas, Colorado, and Wyoming. In some areas, a blizzard occurs when blowing snow and sustained strong winds combine for at least 3 hours and reduce visibility to a quarter mile or less. In Kansas, ice and snow contributed to a fatal crash in Pawnee County Monday evening when a pickup truck driver lost control and crashed head-on into a car. An 86-year-old female driver was killed in a Christmas Day crash, according to the Kansas Highway Patrol. The driver of the pickup truck and 2 other people in the vehicle with the victim were injured. There were also multiple crashes and vehicle slides off the road in Nebraska on Monday, with tow trucks on eastbound Interstate 80 near York in the morning and early afternoon, the Nebraska State Patrol said. There have been cases of trailers breaking off and becoming trapped. Troopers on the patrol said they responded to about 150 incidents related to severe blizzard conditions on Christmas Day. Low visibility also caused major road closures into Wednesday morning. Thank you for liking, leaving comments, subscribing, and turning on the little bell. We will update every day. Westbound Interstate 80 and Highway 30 were closed from Kearney in central Nebraska to the Wyoming state line, a stretch of about 270 miles, according to the State Department of Transportation. About 179 miles of the highway from Wyoming to North Platte, Nebraska, were closed to eastbound traffic, according to the Transportation Department and state police. One traveler said he was driving from Denver to Chicago when the storm hit on Tuesday, so he parked his car near Ogallala, Nebraska, and charged his car around noon. Soon after, he learned the highway was closed and booked a motel for the night. He said there was a line of stranded drivers at the motel looking for a room, but it wasn't going well. They had never experienced such heavy snow in their lives. The State Department of Transportation announced that residents in 14 North Dakota counties are advised to avoid all travel on Tuesday due to poor winter road conditions. About 50 miles of westbound lanes of Interstate 94 in the state were closed Tuesday morning due to multiple traffic accidents. The South Dakota Department of Transportation said I-90 was closed in both directions for more than 200 miles between Mitchell and Wall from Monday night into Tuesday morning. A foot or more of snow fell in parts of South Dakota, including 13.8 inches in Gregory and 12 inches in Deadwood and Spearfish, according to the National Weather Service. The department said 7.5 inches of snow fell in Aurora, Colorado, and 7 inches in Norfolk, Nebraska. In recent times, snowstorms have frequently hit various states in the United States. We reported on November 28th that parts of northern and western New York were covered in heavy snow. Lake effect blizzards continued to hit the area. The snowfall rate of this storm exceeded 1 inch per hour. Snowfall is intensifying across Lake Erie, with the heaviest snowfall concentrated south of Buffalo, which was paralyzed by lake effect snow on Christmas Eve last year. The storm has dropped more than a foot of snow on towns and villages south of Buffalo. In Hamburg, The police department warned residents to drive with caution after reports of multiple crashes and delays to emergency services. In Orchard Park, officials said many roads remain snow-covered, slippery and filled with abandoned vehicles blocking driveways. In communities east of Lake Ontario, New York, most areas saw snowfall amounts between 12 and 18 inches, but some areas saw much higher snowfall totals, such as the village of Constable Greenville, which has a population of about 300 people. Nearly 10 residents were besieged by the blizzard. More than 3 million people are under lake-effect snow warnings from far eastern Ohio to parts of upstate and western New York. Up to a foot of snow fell in parts of northeast Ohio and northwest Pennsylvania, the Weather Service said. The Ohio Department of Transportation said on social media that hundreds of crews were clearing heavily snow-covered roads across the state. The Cleveland Metropolitan School District, which has about 35,000 students, said schools are closed because of the weather. Video posted to social media appeared to show extremely poor visibility and traffic coming to a standstill in the Buffalo area. The New York State Thruway Authority reported crashes, vehicle breakdowns and delays on Interstate 90, which crosses the state from east to west. Service may be slowed due to heavy snowfall and slippery roads. The United States has been hit by snowstorms frequently recently, and the reasons are complicated. First of all, the United States has a vast land and abundant resources, with its northern latitude close to the polar regions and its southern latitude close to the tropics. In addition, the terrain is undulating and winds flow in from the Atlantic Ocean. Therefore, the winter monsoon is dynamic and active, and the encounter between warm and humid air currents and cold air can easily produce heavy snowstorms. Secondly, the central and eastern United States is located in the hinterland of the North American continent, with sufficient water vapor supply from the Atlantic. The Rocky Mountains block the moist air flow from the Pacific, while the cold air from the northern polar and Arctic seas frequently flows southward. The two meet at the intersection zone to trigger severe snowstorms. On the other hand, the Great Plains in the central and western regions are open to the north, allowing Arctic air masses to move south unimpeded and affecting a wide area. The East Coast is wide in the north and narrow in the south, and opens to the North Atlantic Ocean, causing a blizzard. In addition, there are many rivers and lakes in the central United States, which provide conditions for the evaporation of large amounts of water vapor and are also conducive to the formation of snowstorms. Warm and humid air currents from the southern Gulf of Mexico and Caribbean Sea moving northward and meeting cold air masses from the Midwest can also trigger blizzards in the central and eastern parts. Generally speaking, the vast and diverse geographical and landform conditions of the United States are conducive to the intersection of warm and cold air masses to generate snowstorms. The formation of a snowstorm requires three conditions: strong power, abundant water vapor, and suitable air conditions. Only when these three systems operate together can a complete snowstorm be formed. First of all, strong atmospheric circulation is the prime mover that provides power. Snowstorms in the northern hemisphere mostly originate from strong cold air masses from the polar regions moving southward. Driven by the high altitude, the cold and dense polar air moves southward on a large scale into the mid-latitudes, where it intensely interacts with the relatively warm and humid air, resulting in strong convection and upward motion. This powerful vertical motion is enough to cause large amounts of water vapor to rise and condense rapidly. Secondly, adequate supply of water vapor is also crucial. Snowstorms in North America often originate from the northward movement of warm and moist air currents from the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean, which bring a large amount of moisture to the cold air in mid-latitudes. This water vapor from the subtropics and tropics is transported long distances inland through the divergence of mid-latitude wind systems, providing raw materials for the production of snow. In addition, suitable atmospheric conditions are a direct factor in producing snowstorms. Only when the vertical structure of the atmosphere is unstable and there is strong convection and upward motion can water vapor in the air effectively condense into ice crystals and snowflakes. This usually occurs in mid to high latitude fronts or cyclonic low-pressure systems. When the atmospheric instability zone superimposed by multiple systems provides forced ascent for the blizzard process, a large amount of water vapor instantly sublimates and grows rapidly within the storm, eventually forming a large-scale blizzard belt. When individuals encounter a snowstorm, they must first quickly find shelter, such as houses, buildings, etc., to avoid being outdoors for a long time. If you are already outdoors, you should immediately seek shelter, such as a shelter on the leeward side of rocks, trees, etc., to maintain body temperature. At the same time, wear warm clothing, such as down jackets, leather boots, gloves, and hats, to cover exposed parts to keep the head and torso warm. Secondly, if you don't have enough clothes or are wet, you can use supplementary items to keep warm, such as newspapers, plastic bags, sundries, etc. Stabilize your steps when moving to prevent slipping and injuries. Try to cover your mouth and nose with a mask or scarf. It is strictly forbidden to sleep during a snowstorm. Stay awake at all times and take precautions against the cold. If the snowstorm lasts for too long and you are exhausted, you can find a place in the snow where you can dig out a snow cave and dig a small hole in it to take shelter. If you encounter a vehicle that loses control, such as a vehicle that is trapped, you should close and seal all windows, keep life-saving equipment at hand, and ensure that the exhaust outlet of the tailpipe is clear. At the same time, contact the outside world as soon as possible and wait for rescue. If symptoms such as chills, tremors, and lack of energy appear in the body, it indicates that mild hypothermia may occur. You should warm up immediately, such as moving the body to increase heat production, rubbing hands and feet to speed up blood circulation, etc. When communities and cities encounter snowstorms, local governments should take various preventive measures in advance to ensure that the impact on city operations and residents' lives is minimized. First of all, blizzard warnings should be issued in a timely manner to remind residents to prepare for emergencies, such as stocking up on urgently needed supplies, inspecting roof structures, and cleaning snow drain ditches in front of their doors. Secondly, the government should prepare emergency rescue materials and organize professional rescue teams to be on standby, to be responsible for emergency repairs of public facilities and rescue of trapped people. At the same time, in terms of transportation, relevant departments must do their best to prevent snow and rush to open roads and railways, allocate sufficient mechanical equipment and personnel, and implement peak shifting control on important transportation lines to ensure smooth transportation as much as possible. The construction and municipal departments must send personnel to inspect disaster-prone areas, such as elevated roads, substations, and other key infrastructure to detect problems early and organize emergency repairs. The education department must properly accommodate trapped students and ensure their safety. When it cannot be ignored, for homeless and mobility-impaired people, The government should open temporary shelters and provide services such as heating, meals, and medical care. If secondary disasters such as large-scale power outages occur, backup power generation equipment must be quickly activated to ensure the supply of water, coal, gas, oil, and other energy sources. Generally speaking, snowstorms can easily cause serious secondary disasters. First of all, heavy snow can quickly paralyze the transportation system, almost completely blocking road, railway, and air transportation, resulting in a snow ban. Road traffic accidents have increased, many vehicles have been trapped on the road, and some have even suffered chain collisions. Traffic paralysis will cause a complete chaos in the transportation system, making it impossible to transport coal, food, and other daily supplies, seriously threatening the operation of the city. In addition, snowstorms can easily cause rupture of power supply, water supply, and gas supply pipelines. Secondly, the strong impact of wind-borne snow particles will damage ground pipelines, while the sudden increase in icing load may also break high-altitude power poles. Pipeline rupture will cause the corresponding supply system to be completely paralyzed, such as large-scale water outages, coal and gas cuts, etc. Extreme weather will seriously affect the operation of the power grid and cause large-scale power outages. Power transmission lines and substations may malfunction and be unable to provide power to users. More importantly, the collapse of civil buildings will cause serious casualties and property losses. These damages will ultimately endanger the lives of the elderly, weak, sick, and disabled. What's more serious is that many temporary buildings and old houses are likely to collapse under strong winds and snow. Most of them cannot withstand the additional load of snow and the strong wind pressure of storms. In dealing with snowstorms, the measures and experiences of some countries are worth learning from. First of all, take Canada as an example. It is close to the Arctic region, where cold waves are frequent in winter and snowstorms are particularly serious. Canada has established a national blizzard warning system which uses monitoring methods such as weather radar, satellite cloud images, and numerical models to basically determine the time, path, and intensity of a blizzard 1 to 3 days in advance. This can fully prepare the government and residents several days in advance, greatly reducing the loss of life and property. In addition, Canada has also established a wide-area traffic weather support system. National, provincial, and municipal road authorities are equipped with advanced snow and ice prevention and emergency rescue equipment, which can clear obstacles and divert traffic at the first time to ensure traffic safety of smooth flow. In addition, at the family and community levels, the government also carries out various publicity and education to improve public awareness of disaster prevention and reduction, such as how to store emergency supplies at home, driving in wind and snow, and survival skills in the wild, etc. These deeply rooted educations have improved the ability of society as a whole to face extreme weather. Secondly, Nordic countries such as Norway and Sweden have also formed a very complete snowstorm response system. They focus on the last-mile push of weather warning information and accurately deliver wind and snow warnings to the people through mobile phone text messages and other methods. In addition, community-based disaster prevention drills have been extensively carried out to cultivate people's awareness and ability of self-rescue and mutual rescue. This kind of risk management and control idea that is oriented to the common people and based on the community is also worth learning from. It is worth mentioning that Japan has a typical East Asian maritime monsoon climate. Although the north belongs to the temperate maritime climate zone, there are almost no large-scale sustained snowstorms. However, Japan has accumulated rich experience in disaster prevention and reduction and meteorological warning, and these experiences are also worthy of reference by other countries. Japan attaches great importance to and invests heavily in meteorological monitoring, and has the world's most advanced and complete weather radar network and high-resolution numerical forecasting system. This provides a solid foundation for Japan to basically determine the occurrence time, path, and intensity of extreme weather several days in advance. This high-precision weather forecasting capability allows disaster prevention departments to have enough time to take various preventive measures to ensure the safety of people's lives and property. In addition, Japan has also established a very complete legal system for disaster prevention and reduction, which clarifies the responsibilities of the central government and local governments and integrates prevention, preparation, response, and recovery and reconstruction throughout the disaster management cycle. At the community level, Japan has carried out a large amount of publicity and education to educate everyone on disaster prevention, and requires schools, businesses, and other public places to conduct regular disaster prevention drills. This policy of preventing the worst and focusing on daily preparations has enabled Japan to reduce disaster losses to the lowest level. It is worth mentioning that the United States is one of the countries with the most frequent and severe snowstorm disasters in the world. It has accumulated very rich experience in mitigating the impact and losses of disasters, which is worthy of key learning and reference by other countries. First of all, the United States leads the world in weather monitoring and forecasting capabilities. The National Hurricane Center and the National Environmental Forecast Center, under the National Weather Service of the United States, work together to use advanced meteorological satellites, radar networks, high-performance computer clusters, and other means to forecast a week in advance. You can basically determine the time and area where a snowstorm will occur. This gave U.S. governments at all levels sufficient time to take disaster prevention measures and release risk warning information, which greatly reduced the loss of life and property. Secondly, the United States has established a vertical-to-border and horizontal-to-surface data sharing and cooperation mechanism to achieve information exchange and collaborative operations among federal, state, and local governments. The central and local governments in the United States have strong public utility emergency repair and rescue teams that can quickly join the front line of disaster relief. The United States is also remarkable in terms of private disaster prevention and reduction. For example, the risk diversification functions provided by insurance and reinsurance institutions, as well as the rescue operations of many non-governmental organizations and volunteer groups, have played a huge role. Thank you for liking, leaving a message, subscribing, and turning on the little bell. We will update the latest news from around the world every day. Continue to use a scientific perspective to explore the complex truth behind meteorological events.